talk to your partner about what's important to you regarding your fitness and your wellness, because when we're communicative about that, our partners can support us or have good ideas about how we can make that stuff work if they see things that we don't. And then we can make sure like, oh, I know that my wife really wants to get in at least 2 walks a day and I didn't see her take one yet today, and I now have an hour. So like I can be a little bit more proactive in saying, hey, I don't have a client for the next hour, and she's, I know that she's awake, but I can put her down for her nap so you can get a walk in. Like you get support when you are communicative about what you're trying to accomplish and like what's important to you.
Welcome back to Fit That Hustle. I'm your host, Mohammed Asfar. In this episode, I'm joined by Rock, an executive legacy advisor and identity integration expert who works with high-level leaders to reshape how they lead, live, and leave their mark. We dive into his journey from single life to marriage and fatherhood, exploring how he integrates ambition, relationships, and personal evolution while guiding others to do the same. We dive into his journey from single life to marriage and fatherhood, exploring how he integrates ambition, relationships, and personal evolution while guiding others to do the same. So many of us dads find ourselves struggling roles as professionals, husbands, and fathers. But can we really have it all without sacrificing our health and or sanity? Rock's here to show us how. Whether you're in a boardroom or in the gym, fueling your body right is key to keeping up with the demands for a busy dad life. That's why I trust BioSteel to keep me hydrated and energized. It's packed with electrolytes and has no added sugar, so you can stay on the top of your game. Use code MNYY141 for up to 25% off. Rock, welcome to Fit That Hustle. Thanks for joining us today. Let's dive into your journey. You started out as a single guy, then built a business, got married, and became a dad. That's a lot of transitions. Could you share what each of these phases taught you about yourself and your priorities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know how much time we have, but it's going to take, I'll give you the abbreviated version of that whole thing. I think, since the focus of what we're talking about is really about balancing priorities of life with also maintaining our health and fitness, I think I'd be remiss not to mention that when I graduated high school, I was 272 pounds. I was a size 48 men's pants. So I'm only 5'10", so instead of growing up, I grew out. And so I kind of started in a place back when I graduated that like I really needed to improve my health if I wanted to make any sort of impact that I really envisioned for myself on the world. And so back in 2008 was when I lost 92 pounds. So I came under 200 pounds at that time. And then 2 years after that, I started doing commercial modeling and getting into the entertainment industry. I have a background as a singer and an actor, and I got involved in a lot of really cool things. And that fast forward is when I began coaching in 2013. So I started building my business back then, still taking full-time roles. And so up until more recently, my objective was really to set myself up to be, number one, financially safe, so that I could actually extend myself energetically to the things that mean a lot to me. So like money to me is just energy. You're exchanging something for something else. And so I've always been focused on like making sure that my energy was good, exchanging it for the right types of stuff. And I met my wife, and she believes the same thing about money. So it was good to find somebody I was really aligned with. And at the time I was still working full time and doing my coaching as like a back burner thing. Then we got married. Our objective was to find a home. And then so we got pregnant right after that. We built our home here that I'm in now, which has been really amazing. And so all that hard work and attention on creating a strong financial foundation, as well as just like making sure my energy was good and attractive of the abundant stuff that I know that I was meant for, was really my priority. And now my priority has shifted to making sure that the legacy I'm creating for my family. We have one 2-year-old, almost 2 years old. She's amazing. And we have another son on the way who will be due later this year. My objective is just to make sure that I am providing them with a life that is memorable for them and it leads to earlier abundance and figuring out who they are and who they want to be and how they want to give back to the world than I had the opportunity to do. And so that's really my objective now. Is I don't really worry about money anymore, because I've built a really great business, and I have come to recognize that money finds you as you continue to put out that good energy. And so I'm really just focused on being present with my family, being a great partner, and being a great dad. I think it's really important that we have solid parents that can help us be successful in life. That's how I would define priorities over the times of life that I've been in.
That's great. And how did your fitness journey evolve as you transitioned from single life to family life?
Oh my gosh, my wife and I talk about this a lot. So when we were both single, your objective is to be hot to attract a potential mate, right? So you're giving your all in terms of diet and physical fitness, and you're hitting the gym 6-7 days a week. And we were both in that space. And as you know now, my background in losing weight was always important for me to maintain that weight loss. And then we took on the priorities of building a house and building a family, and I was working a lot, and so my weight and my health definitely slipped a lot in the most recent couple of years of our life together. And I think previously, if that had happened to me, if I had put on any amount of weight, like while being single or like prior to meeting my wife, I would like have a really hard time with that. I would get really strict with myself. I would do a lot of fasting and doing all this other stuff. And this time I'm just like, you know what? I'm a human, and I can't possibly do everything 100% all the time. And given that we were focusing on making sure that I was transitioning fully to my business, and because now I do coaching full time for myself, we were building a house, we were moving from a different area of the state, we were going to welcome a baby, and all of the dynamics that change in your life when you have another human that you're responsible for that can't take care of themselves. I realized that I was a lot easier on myself about putting on the weight because number one, I had to remember I've lost way more than 30 pounds before. I know how to do it. I know what it takes. I know where I need to be like mindset wise. And I need to have grace with myself that I'm actually giving a little bit of myself at this time to something that's really bigger than me, which is my child and my wife, and making sure that I'm setting them up to be healthy and okay. And I can come back and do this when I need to. And at the same time, I've also realized that like, I don't have to do 2-hour workouts. I don't have to do 6 days a week. I fit it in my life at this point in time. And as our lives change and as the kids get older and as we kind of move things around, like my definition of fitness and physical activity and wellness is going to change along with that. I'm going to have more time to do these things. I'm going to have more energy to do these things. But for now, it is what it is. And I'm working through it. And like, I have no lack of peace around like what's going on. And even though my body looks different than it did, a couple years ago, I don't really have a problem with that now. And I think that's really important, is that we accept that like, this is the present time and we're going to figure it out. Like we just figure out what we can do.
That's so true. Like always people say like, oh, but they feel guilty that they lost a little bit of weight and all. Like, but don't worry about it. You can always go back to it. Like if the work is taking too much of your time at that specific time, it's not going to be late if you lose it later, but as long as you have it there in your mind, and like you said, like it doesn't have to be an hour, 2-hour workout. Like even if you can just fit in like 10 minutes, at least you're moving your body, you're getting some energy out there and getting your mind more focused too, because that helps as well, especially when you're into that transition of family, baby, business, work, it just fit in whatever you can. That just gonna help out. And then later on, if you feel you need to put in more time, then you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's journey looks a little different. And I think it's easy in the age of social media and like gurus and everybody that they're like, oh, if you want to look like me, you have to do exactly this. And like, we all know that that's not true, right? Like it's not how it comes to be. And once you get comfort with like knowing that your path is your path and the way that you're making it come to be is the way that it's going to come to be, there's like an ease that comes along with that. You like can give yourself some grace and just enjoy moving your body when you can, for how long you can, in the ways that you can. And I think that there's something really important about that.
Yeah, there's no one size fit all. Like you said, you just mentioned the fasting, okay? I don't know whether it's intermittent fasting that you meant or not, but if that's what it is, that's probably something that's going to work for you, but not necessarily working for your partner or for me or for anyone else,
Absolutely.
For me, I do some intermittent fasting, but like, for example, during the day, I'll like pull like 3-4 hours that I don't really eat, But that's only if I feel like I really need to do that, And then, but mostly I'm a low carb guy. I'm all about low carbs, high protein, all that. That works for me, but necessarily doesn't work for others. So you got to see what works for you. Each person's body, DNA, the atmosphere you and the weather that you're in, that makes a lot of difference, by the way.
It does. Yeah, your climate, where you are in the world, geographically makes a big difference. The quality of the soil that your food comes from. Like there's so many variables and factors. And like, if we try to concern ourselves with all of those things, we will literally go crazy. We're never going to find a way out of it. So experimenting has been really fun for me. I've tried, I'm not even kidding you. I have tried every eating style, every diet, every like protein rationing and carb cycling and all this other stuff. And like, I've tried it all and it's been fun for me to do that. Some stuff definitely works better for me than others, but the point is like, number one, I know what doesn't work, which is one thing I can cross off the list of like, this sure does not work for me. And also I can help other people when they're encountering a similar thing. I can say like, oh, I tried this and these were my results, and take it for what it's worth. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but I think that's been a really interesting sort of side effect of me trying so many things. Is like, it's been good for my health because I found some things that really do work, that are like staple aspects of my fitness and wellness now. And then there's other things that like I don't even bother with because I know my body doesn't respond well to that stuff. So it's good stuff.
Definitely. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced trying to balance your business, family, and fitness?
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge is definitely energy, or if you want to, I would say energy and time. So, there are only so many hours in the day. I mean, you have kids, that when you have young kids, especially, their sleeping really dictates how well you sleep. And then you have business. I mentioned I was working full time, so I had like a 50+ hour a week job, and I'm also was working on the back end at nights, seeing clients, just to make sure that I was building up my business in a way that I could make that transition. So timing was really, really tough for me to come by, in which I could feel like I was making a real dent in my health. Like, I know we're talking about it now, like the 10-minute workouts, the 10-minute walks, like I take them and I love them now. But back then I was like, this isn't enough, so I'm just not going to do anything. And that was like the worst thing I could have done. Like, looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I had just been thought differently about it. But who I was being and how I was spending my energy and my time at that point did not lend itself well to be able to like appreciate a 10-minute walk or a 10-minute workout or 15 minutes here or whatever. I was very compartmentalized in how I did that. So my challenge was, number one, mindset about what fitness looked like, what physical activity looked like. So I had to kind of get over that. My energy levels throughout the day obviously were all over the place because I wasn't eating well. I wasn't moving my body as much. As you know, that has biological effects of not doing those things. And then the limit of time, me working so much, and then also like not sleeping well. So my moments of the day where I felt like I could do something just felt so small. So I would say those were the challenges that I had most recently, with like getting back into like a flow of moving my body and watching how I eat and all that other stuff. But all temporary, obviously, things, but definitely challenges for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the walk as well, because I mentioned that to anyone that doesn't really fit in the fitness, like, just go for a walk. Usually we say 30-minute walk, but like you said, even a 10-minute walk is fine.
Yep.
As long as you're just getting, because sometimes, especially as dads, you've seen it, like you go through a lot with your child, with your wife. A lot of challenges come here and there, so you just gotta step out, hit that reset button, refresh, and then come back, and then you'll see there's a big difference. First of all, you're getting a little bit of a workout. Even sometimes when I go on vacation, there are sometimes I don't even have time to exercise, but I do a lot of walking. So sometimes my kids see my body like that. You haven't even done any workouts, but your body looks really good. It works. So don't worry about it if you don't have to if you can't put in that workout in. The walk, it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 foldable treadmills in our house. We have one upstairs on this floor where my office is, and we have one downstairs in the living room. So there's times at night, like when the baby goes to bed, we'll take turns walking on the treadmill in the living room. Like, one of us will do half an hour. My wife will lay down. She's pregnant now, so it takes her, it's a little bit more effort to be able to do that, but she'll lay down and she'll watch TV. We'll be watching the show together still, like we would have been, but at least we've got our, final, let's say like 3,000 or 4,000 steps in for the day. It's been really game changing to like make it convenient to like fit fitness in our life versus like making our life fit. It's two ways. It's like, we're not letting fitness dictate our life. We're letting our life dictate the fitness. And I think that's really important. Is like, it's okay, you have a treadmill in your living room. Like, it doesn't look as great as you want, but who gives a shit? It's like, you're still doing what you're going to do for you. I think that's really important. And to your point, like, if we don't prioritize that, like, nobody else is going to do it for us. Like, nobody's going to say, hey, let me carve 10 minutes out of your day to go take care of yourself. Like, we have to prioritize that. And I think the message as a dad, which I see with my clients a lot, is like, if we don't take care of ourselves, we are not best serving our families. We're not best serving our wives or our kids, or even like if you have a business with employees, like, we're not best serving our teams by doing this, because we are limiting our capacity to show up and like energetically support and give back to these people. We do owe it to others, not just to ourselves, to take care of ourselves. So
100%.
we have to find the ways to make that happen, whether it's 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours, like whatever. If it's going for a walk, going for a hike, or doing a really intense like physical weightlifting session, then it looks different for everybody. But thinking about that is just, it's one way of making sure we're giving back to other people in a really important way.
100%, I agree with you. That's definitely a great point. Was there a moment that really tested your commitment to staying fit and healthy?
Fit and healthy. Yeah, I think kind of talking about what we were just touching on is like, we have to redefine what fit and healthy looks like for us at the different phases of our life. And I couldn't look at myself and say, oh, I wish I looked just like I did back in 2014. My life was totally different in 2014 than it is now. Fitness then was like being super lean and like going to the gym 7 days a week, and healthy was like the results of that. Whereas like now, fit and healthy for me make sure that I don't have pain in my body. Like I want to make sure I'm not rickety and like, sore and stiff. Like, so flexibility is really important in terms of like health for me right now. Is like, it's indicative of like, am I moving my body enough? Also like just watching my inflammation levels. So I recently learned that I have a low histamine tolerance, which means histamine inducing foods in my body cause my body to do certain things like sneeze and like get tired and stuff like that. So health for me is also now considering that like I have to keep that in the back of my mind in terms of diet. Like, what am I ingesting that is making me less healthy? Whereas I didn't really have to think about those things in the past because my body was different. I was younger. My activity was different. So yeah, I think the constant reevaluation of what fitness and health look like for you at whatever phase of life you're in and whatever constraints you have is really important. And don't get like tied to one definition of fitness and health, because that could kind of sort of, bite you in the ass later if you don't change it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, it's all depends on the phase of your life. Like for me, when I was in college, fitness was different for me. It was like hardcore, heavy weights. I was on creatine, protein. I had a big chest, big biceps. It was totally different for me. And then I left it for a while. I've always been an athlete. I played basketball, soccer, and all that. But I didn't really have a weight problem, but I wasn't as fit as I am now, because when I got married, I wanted to be the best version of myself for my kids. I told my wife, there's this program. It's totally different for me. I've never done it, but it's all body weight. We did the functional fitness, we did the HIIT, we did the Pilates, we did yoga, we did all that. And now I do it every morning. I wake up early morning between 5, 6 a.m. and I'm putting in the work, doing that exercise like 15 minutes. And that's all I need. I don't really need more than that. Sometimes I do a little weights, but they're very, very light. When I do those little weights, I gain more muscles because that's how my body is. I do some bands and I do some body weight. I do a mix. And it's very important to also mix up your fitness as well. Not always keeping it at all times, because you can plateau as well. You might not feel the muscles growing, you feel bad. So yeah, definitely every phase of your life is totally different.
Yeah, I think that I was mentioning earlier how we make kind of like fitness fit into our life. And so one of the things we recently did that has been a game changer for me, because I traditionally like to lift weights. I have a background, when I lost all the weight, I became very skinny. Like I had no muscle in my body because I lost the weight so fast. And I was a cardio person running 10-mile runs at a time outside. And it was like, I was very, very thin. I mean, I went from being very, very obese to being very, very thin. And it's like so drastic. And you could tell I needed something. I needed to kind of like build my body back up. So that's when I got into weightlifting and eating more in the right way with the right macronutrients and all of that, being very conscious of that. So me not making it to the gym and being able to drive 30 minutes each way to do that was really hard for me, because I didn't want to just do walking. I wanted to feel like I was challenging my body in some way. So we recently purchased a home gym, which is like, it's similar to Tonal. It has like a digital screen. It has all workouts pre-programmed, but it has resistance. Like it has you can adjust the height of everything, and like bringing that here, like it was an investment, but it's so life-changing for me to have the ability to lift up to 200 pounds, like benching. I can't bench 200 pounds now, but like I could if I wanted to with this machine. So like, it's been really nice to have the ability to still do my squats, to do my deadlifts, to do my overhead presses, and just have access to it of being right down the hall from where I work. So I can go and get in a few reps in between calls, or I can go and have a full workout on a Saturday morning. I don't have to leave my home. And some people need that separation to like go somewhere and like do it somewhere else. But for me, that I can't do it anymore. I have to like make it work. And so it's been great to bring that in.
That's amazing. So you first quite a bit, like from building a career to building a family and a legacy. Like, how did you maintain your fitness and nutrition routines through these big life changes? We've touched on it, but if you can just add a little bit more into it.
Yeah, I think like we have kind of said, the biggest dictation of time for me is like when I was, let's call it peak fitness, I was able to pre-pack my meals. I could be as strict as I wanted of like eating chicken and rice and broccoli for 4 meals a day. And as you know, you get married and your partner might have different eating preferences than you, or you have kids and now your kids want to eat certain things that you don't. And so you have to kind of like adjust a little bit, but you also have to prepare yourself for success. So even though I can't do all of my meal prep like I used to and eat the same 3 meals a day, I still have certain dietary aspects that I keep present for myself. So I know I can't overdo it on the carbs. I know that I have to, at least my minimum protein values per day, even if I'm not working out, and on days that I am working out, a little bit more. So like, I think it's just going from complexity, so having a lot of different things that you're trying to keep track of, to then just minimizing it to like, what are the bare minimum things you need to do to have like peak health at this point in your life has been really important for me to recalibrate and to check in with. With regards to my diet, I do know that I have some level of insulin sensitivity, meaning like my body doesn't do well with carbohydrates that come from like breads or pastas or rice or things like that. But fruit does really, really well for me. So in the first half of my day, I prioritize having all of my simple carbohydrates. So I like load up on fruit, load up on honey, and then there's a point in the afternoon where I stop eating, similar to you, for like 3 or 4 hours. And that's when I'll try to get in a workout, because I'm going to burn off all of the glucose that I was making throughout the first half of the day. And then at night, I just enjoy a regular meal. And I have two cups of chocolate milk after dinner. And I'm like, you know what? This feels good. And previously I would not allow myself to do that. And that sort of like deprivation wasn't good for my mind, wasn't good for my body. My body wanted more. And I was like, no, like you can't have it. But I think just finding the ways to make it work and find something that works for you, even if it's short term, is really the key to kind of like not encountering nutrition or fitness challenges, right? Like adjust. Don't be so strict and stringent, because like things are going to change all around you. And if you don't change with them, like, then what? Like what's the alternative?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like even myself, I've cut sugar on a lot of things. And cut sugar when I drink tea, when I drink coffee and all that. But if I want to indulge, I will indulge with limitations. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna just let it go, and just know I'm gonna if I feel like I want to indulge, I'll indulge. And it's not gonna make a big difference in my life. I'm not gonna gain like 100 pounds, just from eating something small, sweet, and I'm gonna enjoy it. You know what I mean? And then at the end of the day, I have the 80-20 rule. Like, and the business, it's the same thing. You got the 80-20 rule, you're fine. You're 80% of your nutrition, you're doing your fitness, whatever. Indulge a little bit, it's okay. It's not gonna make it's not gonna harm you, as long as you're on track and you're burning it. Whatever you're putting in, you're taking out.
Yeah. And this is related to and I totally agree with that this 80-20 principle is applicable like across life. And I've noticed that the people who always feel they have to do one thing or the other thing all the time, where there's no like balance or there's no sort of like moving blend, are the people who don't trust themselves. So they say, I have to do this all the time because I know that if I don't trust myself to stop. And so that is bigger than just like a fitness thing or a discipline thing. Like that's a mindset that you have about yourself and your abilities that is preventing you from having more balance. And so in my work with clients as a coach, I'm realizing that more and more that's true for people in relationships, at work. I have to always be this way. I have to always show up this way. It's but you're totally negating part of your humanity. You're making it difficult for other people to relate to you or know you or whatever. And now in this instance, we're talking about diet and fitness. If you're doing that with yourself, you're also depriving yourself of humanity. You're not able to go to a birthday party and have a few snacks because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to stop afterwards. You don't trust yourself to have that sort of knowledge or mindset that it's okay. And so I think people underplay the mental aspect of fitness and health way more than they should. And it has ripple effects of if you're creating a lot of stress for yourself or a lot of anxiety for yourself, or you have food noise, they like to call it nowadays, that's gonna have an effect on your body in ways of disease, in ways of other illnesses. Even mental health is completely tied to how our bodies react. And so we can't discount that piece of fitness and wellness. It can't just be moving and eating. There has to be a mental and emotional aspect that is incorporated into this in order for us to achieve real like wellness overall, if that makes sense.
That's 100% true. You're absolutely right. You've mentioned that you've adapted your workouts, your routines to fit around your family and business demands. Can you just add a little bit more on what changes you made, each phase that you went through?
Yeah. So when I was single or like early in my relationship with my wife, I was able to go to the gym 6 days a week. I put in like an hour to 2 hour workout because I have the time in my hands, right? It was like just me and her. I had a dog, but the dog was good. I would go and check on him, whatever. So like I have the freedom to do more and spend more time doing that. And then I'll compare it to today where I don't have that same luxury of like my only priority is me and a girlfriend and a dog. Like, you know, I have like a whole business. I have clients that obviously expect a certain level of my time. I have a wife that I want to stay connected to. I have a daughter that I want to be present with. So my time and priorities are spread a little differently than they used to be. So my workouts now have become much shorter and much more like frequent, meaning I might do like a 10-minute workout earlier in the day and I'll do a 20-minute workout at night, or I might not do anything on a specific day. And the next day I just continue the 30 minutes that my commitment is on a daily basis. I'll squeeze in a walk here and there. I mentioned the treadmills that we have. The weather here in Massachusetts right now, it's winter. So being outside doesn't lend itself well to doing many things out there. My wife and I previously were skiers, but my wife is pregnant right now. And then we had a baby. So we haven't been skiing in a couple of years because nobody watched the kid and she can't come with us. And you can't ski when you're pregnant. It's a little risky. But so there's certain things that we have to kind of adjust to. So I would say that like my workouts are definitely a blend of more cardio. I was never like a big cardio person. I did long runs, as I mentioned previously, and then I totally fell off the cardio wagon entirely. But now I'm like, okay, I just need to shoot for my 10 to 12,000 steps a day. Get them in how I can, even if it's about 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, whatever. I want to weightlift at least 3 times a week. So if I meet those two things on a weekly basis, like I feel very good. We started incorporating, I started incorporating infrared. We have an infrared sauna here in our house, which has been really good for like overall wellness and inflammation, and just feeling good. Like I'm getting, I'm detoxing my body well, since I'm not sweating as much as I used to through activity, like through working out. I'm now getting it a different way. So yeah, my fitness is more than just working out these days. It's very much trying to incorporate other aspects of body health that I think are equally important for me to pay attention to at this point in my life.
Awesome. Great stuff. Now, we've talked about nutrition. You made some changes in nutrition and, you know, with the intermittent fasting, and you saw what worked for you and what didn't work for you. Now, when it comes to supporting both high-performing career and your family, how did you approach your nutrition?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I know certain things about my body that I had to keep in mind as I was going through all these phases of life. And so my nutrition has really become a lot more simple. So I mentioned in at the beginning, or a few minutes ago, that I switched to more having my simple carbohydrates in the beginning half of the day. And that seems to lend itself well to having energy to go through the day. I previously would not have done that eating style. I would just kind of like fast, and then I'd start with a regular meal at lunchtime, and then I would have maybe like a snack somewhere in between, and then a regular dinner. And I noticed that like I was getting tired earlier in the day. I need like a nap and everything. And so I stopped that. So my nutrition has been more about like thinking about things in much more simple terms. And I told my wife that eating this way, where I prioritize fruit and like honey and very simple sugars in the first half of the day, makes it much easier for me. I don't have to think about what I'm eating or how much I'm eating. Like I just know that if I stick to doing that, I'm gonna reap the benefits of energy throughout the day. And then at night, like I mentioned, I prioritize a lot of my protein. I do supplement my diet with essential amino acids so that I am kind of keeping the protein aminos flowing through my body without actually consuming more calories or food that is outside of my eating window. So I'm making sure I'm hitting my protein goals that way. And of course, at night, I mentioned I like to have my 2 glasses of chocolate milk after dinner. And that seems to just like satiate me in a way that is important, because like I have a sweet tooth and I'm not going to deny myself total, deprivation of sweetness just because I can't have a whole dessert. Like I can't eat a pint of ice cream. I can't have cookies, all the time. But like this little thing just keeps it so that I can sustain the nutrition goals that I have for myself right now.
That's great. That's great. Now, if there was one mindset shift that helped you keep fitness a priority, what would that be?
I would just say, kind of building off of what I said earlier, is like recognize that you can redefine what fitness looks like for you, given wherever you are in life. And so don't hold yourself to a standard that you previously could meet when the standard just needs to adjust to your life, and be okay with that. Like give yourself grace to adjust in that way.
Okay, great. We talk a lot about time on the show for dads like us. Every minute counts. Rock, how do you manage your time to prioritize family, work, and fitness? And what advice would you give to dads trying to work it all, make it?
I think the first thing we have to do is like determine what our needs are. Because if we're not aware of what the needs we have are, they will drive our behavior. And so we might be over prioritizing work because we think we need more money or we need more validation in our profession. So we're going to be spending a lot of time doing that, and it's going to have to make a sacrifice somewhere else. And so the first thing I would say is like, be very conscious of what needs are present for you right now and why they're there. And if they still need to be met the way that you're meeting them, or if they even need to be present at all. After you do that, then you can be really clear about like how you can live your life in a values aligned way. So a value for me, obviously, is time with my family. I want to make sure that I'm present for my wife and my daughter. And I also want to build time for myself to take care of myself. And so if I was only focused on building my business, I'd be giving all of my time up to doing that and none of the time to the other things. And then at some point, sacrificing, as I mentioned before, sacrificing my ability to work out would come up. And so I would say get really clear on what your needs are, decide what your values are, and then reshuffle or prioritize your time based on that to make sure you can fit in the things that are actually important to you versus the things that you think you should be prioritizing as important.
Great stuff. You talked about your working out, but just to clarify, do you have specific times in working out, or you just fit it whenever you can?
Yep, I just fit it whenever I can, honestly. Just starting next week, this is something, it's a funny question you asked. I block out 2 hours in the middle of my day that is around the time that my toddler naps for me to do lunch and a workout. So I'm really excited to get into that next week. I'm trying it to see if it's going to work, if it's going to stick. And if not, I'm a very flexible person. I'll find another way to make it happen, but it came to me and I'm a very energetically pushed person. So if something like an idea sparks in me and I feel good about it, I'll just move on it and won't overthink it. I'll say, let's see how it works. And if not, let's adjust it. If not, we'll do something else. But I am committed to making sure that I have that time. And I think that's really the important piece of the whole thing.
What's one practical tip would you give to dads struggling to find time for fitness amidst everything else?
Talk to your partner about what's important to you regarding your fitness and your wellness, because when we're communicative about that, our partners can support us or have good ideas about how we can make that stuff work if they see things that we don't. And then we can make sure like, oh, I know that my wife really wants to get in at least 2 walks a day and I didn't see her take one yet today. And I now have an hour. So like I can be a little bit more proactive in saying, hey, I don't have a client for the next hour. And she's, I know that she's awake, but I can put her on for her nap so you can get a walk in. Like you get support when you are communicative about what you're trying to accomplish and like what's important to you. But if you don't talk about it, you're kind of on an island by yourself. And then you can get like resentful because you're like, oh, why doesn't she take over when she knows I want to work out? Like we never talked about it. So I would just say, make sure that you're communicating with your family about what's important to you so that they can support you in making sure it happens.
Great. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
How has prioritizing helped impact your effectiveness as a coach and as a dad?
Well, like I said earlier, I think I'm an energy-driven person, and I know that I can only best serve other people when I recharge my own batteries. So I would say taking a good look at how I can find those opportunities to recharge, whether it's through food or through moving my body, allows me to be a better coach and a better husband and a better dad, because I have more energy to give. But when I'm not paying attention to those things, I feel tired. I feel like I don't have enough to give. And I feel like very unfulfilled at the end of the day, because like, even though I did a good job, there's something missing. And so prioritize this for yourself, but to the benefit of other people too.
Rock, you've built an incredible career as a high impact coach for visionary leaders. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you help others redefine success?
Sure. In the most basic, we could have a whole other conversation about this, but at the very basic level, I'm always focusing on identity integration. And what that means is like, when we're talking about problems that we have in our current reality, it's really just an extension of who we believe that we are and the beliefs that that person has. That has a whole chain of command up to the actions that we take. And so in order to leave behind or permanently get away from the problems of our current reality, we have to become a different person. We have to have a different identity with a different belief system, with different thoughts and feelings, who take different actions. And so the whole core of kind of what I do is helping people recognize their identity today, redefine their identity for what they want, and how that aligns to the legacy they want to leave behind. And it sounds simple, but it's so complex because of the varying things that feed into that. And like, what do we bring from our childhood and all this other stuff. So it's a really fun journey. And once somebody gets it and it clicks and they start to recognize that real distinction between old identity and the identity that they actually want and who they actually are, you see like everything just starts opening up for them. Their lives become so much easier. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I just had this phone call and this person just reached out. I'm like, yeah, you know, God or the universe or however you want to look at it has been waiting for you to like take ownership of your life in this way and has been like holding on to these things for when you're ready and you're finally ready. And so it's a wonderful thing for me to be able to be part of people's journeys in that way. I've done it for myself. I can't even tell you how many times, redefining myself consistently throughout my life. And so I'm an expert in this area to be able to help other people do the same.
That's amazing. Where can listeners go to learn more about your coaching service and connect with you?
Oh, sure. I have a website, pretty easy. It's just my name, rockdubois.com. That's ROCKDUBOIS.com. You can go there, read a little bit about what I do and how I do it. And then I have, obviously, of course, people have shared their stories. So you can learn a little bit about the impact that has on others' lives. You can also feel free to send me an email just to get in touch. That's my name, rock@rockdubois.com. Again, super easy. It'll probably be linked somewhere when you post this. But yeah, either way, I'm kind of active on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram as well. But I always prefer either a direct email or even like my phone number is listed, so you can just send me a text. I'm a very easy person to get in touch with in that way.
Thanks for sharing that, Rock. I'll make sure we'll include those details in the show notes so listeners can easily find you.
That sounds great. Yeah. This has been great, Mohammed. Thank you.
Yeah, man. For any dads listening who feel stressed thin, Rock's story shows that it's possible to make time for what matters. If you're ready to prioritize your health while building a lasting legacy, reach out and let's craft a plan that fits your life. Book a call with me and let's get started on creating a more balanced, healthier you. Remember, as Rock shows us, true success is about aligning your career, family, and health. Let's make it happen. Thank you, Rock, for sharing your story and insights with us today. Your journey is inspiring, and I know a lot of dads out there will relate to your experiences. Before we wrap up, if today's conversation resonates with you and you're ready to redefine success on your terms, Rock's Coaching is the last stop for visionary leaders looking to integrate who they are with how they lead. To learn more, visit the website or check out the show notes for links. And thanks to BioSale for powering this podcast. When you're working on building a legacy like Rock, staying hydrated and energized is key, especially for busy dads. Use code MNYY1417 to 25% off your next order. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with a dad who might need to hear this message of balance and legacy. Until next time, stay fit, stay focused, and keep hustling.